Chicago Bears, as there's a new sheriff in Chicago. You know the Bears moved up in the draft to select Justin Fields. So Matt Nagy, he says Andy Dalton will be the week 1 starter for the Chicago Bears. So the question here is, are the Bears making a mistake not having a quarterback competition?
No, I don't think they're making a mistake, though. I think they're grooming their quarterback. Like, they don't want to rush him get on the field that quick. And I think Matt Nagy got 2 options going on. If Andy Dalton, if he's hitting, like if he's playing real well in this season, his job is really premium saved. But if he's not playing well and he playing Justin Fields, but you get like some good production out of him, his job will still be safe. Now, here's the other options. If Andy Dalton and Justin Fields is playing horrible, yeah, his job is over for them. But I think though, like when you got a quarterback like that, like in Justin Fields, you gotta put him, like sit him for a few games and stuff, and let Andy Dalton take over the offense, because you want him to learn the playbook, the up tempo of the game, and you don't want to rush him to get injuries, because you're playing in a solid division with good defensive teams like the Packers. And the Vikings front 7 is solid. The Lions, they're coming up. So I think like you should start Andy Dalton until Justin Fields is ready. I don't think this should be like a quarterback competition. For what? I mean, the Minnesota Vikings wanted Justin Fields, don't get me wrong, but Justin Fields is going to be special for them for years to come. So let him sit back and learn from Andy Dalton. And he even said he learned a lot from Andy Dalton. Yeah. Andy Dalton took him under his wing, including Nick Foles too. So they took him under his wing because they know he's the future, and they don't want him to get rushed out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you believe that Matt Nagy is making the right decision by closing the door on a quarterback competition.
Yeah,
you think Dalton should be the starter in week 1?
Yeah, he should be the starter week 1. He should be the starter week 1 because Justin Fields, I don't want to throw him out there just now because, first game against the who was their game?
Not sure they first got.
I think they played the Detroit Lions. I don't care who they play though, but Andy Dalton should be the day 1 starter. He's the most experienced guy, and you can see what can he do. And if that experiment is not working out, that's when you throw in Justin Fields and let him get his reps in. He learned from it though. But as of right now, I think they should not have no quarterback competition, Trey.
Okay, so my question for you is, what year are we in?
2021.
Okay, we're in 2021. So we are in a new age, of football, like new era quarterback.
Yeah,
football, right?
Pass heavy.
Okay, pass heavy. So last year, do you remember the Chargers inserting, Justin Herbert, into the starting lineup, and he had a great rookie season. I thought last year Justin Herbert outperformed Tua. He outperformed, Burrow.
I know you wanted to say
that. I think Joe Burrow impressed me last year. He impressed me, and I was wrong about Joe Burrow. He played outstanding before his ACL injury. But I believe that Justin Herbert played the best when it comes to the rookie quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
So I believe we're at a new era in the NFL where rookie quarterbacks, they're being inserted into the starting lineup sooner rather than later. So I disagree with you. I think Matt Nagy is making a huge mistake by not keeping the door open for quarterback competition. Let me explain why. Andy Dalton hasn't had a good season since 2018. In 2018, he had 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, completed 62% of his passes for your Bengals. But since then, Andy Dalton, he's had 30 touchdowns and 22 interceptions. He had 1 year with your Bengals. His last year with Cincinnati, he didn't play very well, wasn't impressive. And then he came in last year for the Dallas Cowboys after Dak Prescott, tore his ankle up. I wasn't very impressed with Andy Dalton as far as being a legitimate starter for a franchise that's trying to win games. And I believe Justin Fields is a franchise quarterback that you can win with in the NFL, Clarence. While he was at the University of Ohio State, the Ohio State University, Justin Fields in 2019, 41 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, completed 67% of his passes. Okay, in 2020, he had 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, completed 70% of his passes. In both of those seasons, he led the Buckeyes to the postseason. Okay, and one of the things, during the draft that didn't make any sense to me was why Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, I didn't understand why they were drafted ahead of Justin Fields. I felt like you could make a legitimate argument that Justin Fields could have been, drafted over Trevor Lawrence. I was very impressed. Hold on. Wait a minute. I was very impressed what I saw from Justin Fields in the postseason. Okay, in the playoff matchup when Clemson went up against State. Justin Fields outperformed Trevor Lawrence. I know it was only one game.
It was
only one game.
That's
But I saw Justin Fields elevate his game in the playoffs for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I don't understand why Zach Wilson and Trey Lance, were drafted ahead of Justin Fields. I don't know what was going on. I was confused because I thought Justin Fields should have been selected as a number 2 overall quarterback at least. But overall, I think Matt Nagy is making a mistake because I think it should be an open quarterback competition because I believe Justin Fields has shown an ability that he can win at the NFL level because in college, in the big moments, he elevated his game. So I think Justin Fields is big time, and I think if the Chicago Bears want to have a chance to compete in the NFC North, they need Justin Fields to be the starter. Andy Dalton ain't gonna cut it.
Okay, you walking into my world when you talk about draft scouts. And I think Justin Fields was a top quarterback in the draft coming out because the intangibles he got, great accuracy, he got great mobility, and he got a quarterback vision that's out of his mind, believe it or not. It's better than anyone's in this NFL in that draft class. And I think when San Francisco, when they was picking third, they had to choose between Trey Lance and Justin Fields. Don't get me wrong, Trey Lance is a solid quarterback. People downplay him a lot because he plays in a Division II school, though. But if you watch this kid play, his freshman year, he threw no interceptions. His second year, he only threw 1 interception. And he go through his progressions faster than Fields. And he got crazy athleticism. So
Trey Lance.
Yeah, Trey Lance.
Yeah.
So the system that Trey Lance made the 49ers run, it fits Trey Lance perfectly because his athleticism is out the park.
Yeah.
Now for Justin Fields, don't get me wrong, he was surprised and disappointed that he did win 14 overall and stuff because a lot of teams passed up on him. The Jets, they fell in love with Zach Wilson. Let's get that out the way. He bought a house in New York 3 weeks ago before the draft, so that was a done deal. The first 2 picks was a done deal. The 3rd and the 4th and the 6th and 7th and 8th, them was pretty you could have said okay, though one of those teams could have got Justin Fields. But the Panthers decided to pass up on him to get a corner. The Falcons passed up on him to get Kyle Pitts. We was getting Jamar Chase. We don't need him. So, and the Dolphins, they needed a weapon because they have Tua.
Yeah.
And 7th, the Broncos, they even passed up on him, which I think wow. But the Broncos are looking for day 1 starters. And for what Chicago building and what the Matt Nagy is building Chicago, Andy Dalton is a bridge type quarterback. He's a bridge type quarterback until Matt Nagy is comfortable putting Justin Fields out on the field. Then he's gonna be out on the field. But if I had to ask how many games you think Justin Fields what week he's gonna get in, I'd say he probably get in at least by week 10.
Right. See, for me, I think Matt Nagy, when he answered the question about the quarterback competition, I think Matt Nagy was, he just wants the media to stop asking him questions about the quarterback competition in Chicago. Because the media right now in Chicago, Clarence, they're all over Matt Nagy, okay? Make no mistake about it. Most people believe that Matt Nagy should have already been fired. So I think that Chicago media is applying pressure on Matt Nagy to have to win now. So I think Matt Nagy just said Andy Dalton is going to be the week 1 starter because he wants to get the media off his back.
I agree.
But when it comes to the Chicago Bears and Matt Nagy, do you believe Matt Nagy is on the hot seat this season?
I think so. I think he's on a hot seat, but it's a certain hot seat though. If he can get production out of these 2 quarterbacks, I think his job is safe. But if he's not getting any type of production and they're not winning games and they're losing 7 out of the 10, he only winning 3 games out of the 10, they're gonna let him go. But I think he is on a hot seat. If he can get a lot out of Andy Dalton, if he's still the starter all season and he plays well, his job is safe. His job is safe. Because you made the playoffs last year. You expect him to bounce back in the playoffs. So if he can play well and put him legit, his job is safe. But if you take Andy Dalton out the starting lineup and bring in Justin Fields, now you're switching like the model now. You switching can you get more production out of Justin Fields? Because I know you probably won't win a lot of games with him, but can you get the most out of him? So I think he's still on the hot seat though. It all depends how he plays and stuff. And I'm looking at their schedule. Their schedule right now, it doesn't look favorable though, but it's manageable though.
They play the AFC North this year, so they got to play your Bengals.
Oh, they see in week 2.
They got to play. They play here or they play Chicago.
We in Chicago.
In Chicago, okay, in Chi-Town. But they play the AFC North this year, so we'll see. We'll look up their schedule. and talk about that. But when you ask the question, is Matt Nagy on the hot seat this season? I believe Matt Nagy is on the hot seat this season, Clarence, because so far in his career as being head coach of the Chicago Bears, Matt Nagy is 28-20, which means he's won 58% of his games. And I believe the worst decision that Matt Nagy made was with Ryan Pace, general manager for the Bears. The worst decision that they made was when they moved up in the draft to select Mitchell Trubisky. And you passed up on an opportunity to draft Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, two great young quarterbacks in the NFL. The Bears missed both of them, and they moved up in the draft, Clarence, and selected Mitchell Trubisky.
But think about
I think that's the worst decision that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace has made since they've been the head coach and the general manager of the Chicago Bears.
So think about it though, like Mitchell Trubisky coming out of North Carolina, he had great athleticism, arm power, and his accuracy wasn't like bad as it was in the NFL. So he had a good scout coming out though.
But I felt like we saw in college that Deshaun Watson was better than Mitchell Trubisky. Maybe not Patrick Mahomes. Like Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, came out of nowhere. Like I didn't see like Patrick Mahomes being as great as he is in the NFL.
Texas Tech, man, watch his highlights.
He was good, but Deshaun Watson was great in college.
Yeah, he was great.
Like Deshaun Watson, to me, you saw him on the biggest stage, you know, in the college football playoff. You remember they went to back-to-back national championship games against Alabama, and he played great in those games. Like, I don't understand for the life of me why Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace elected to move up in the draft and draft Mitchell Trubisky. Didn't make any sense, and I think it could be what ultimately cost Matt Nagy his job. Again, he's won 58% of his games, and he's been to the postseason 2 out of 3 seasons. But his signature, Clarence, is offense. And I'm a big believer in whatever your signature is, that needs to improve once you become head coach of a football team. His signature is offense. Therefore, I believe the Chicago Bears offensively have to improve this year. Because over the last few years, their defense has been pretty solid. I mean, at one point they were very elite. But it's only so much your defense can do. They've been middle of the pack the last few years, but their offense has been awful. So I think for them to have a chance, you know, to compete in the NFC North, and Matt Nagy, for him to save his job, he needs the Bears offense to play at a high level. And my man David Montgomery to get in the end zone a few times this year.
Hey, I'm a big fan.
David Montgomery, man.
Big fan of you, David, man. So let me ask you this. You think the Bears can win the NFC North? Now listen to this. They re-signed Tariq Cohen. They franchise tag Allen Robinson.
Yep.
They brought some key pieces on the defense side. Khalil Mack is coming back. Eddie Jackson is back. So do you think they can win the NFC North?
Let me ask you a question. I got a question on top of that. Is Aaron Rodgers the quarterback of the Packers this year? For you. And then as you ask this question, is this with Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback of the Packers, or he's not on the Packers?
Okay, we're gonna do 2 questions. If he's on the Packers.
If he's on the Packers, the Chicago Bears will not compete in the NFC North because my Packers have completely dominated this supposed rivalry. You know, it's supposed to be a rivalry between the Bears and Packers, okay? Like they say it's the greatest rivalry in sports history. But for whatever reason, the Packers have dominated the Bears. Okay, like I was in Chicago a few weeks ago, and I drove by Soldier Field, and I just thought to myself, like, man, like my Packers dominated the Bears. In their own stadium, they dominated the Bears. So I think when you ask the question whether or not the Bears can win the NFC North, it depends on whether or not Aaron Rodgers shows up to play. Because I think Aaron Rodgers will be our Week 1 starter, in New Orleans. I think if Aaron Rodgers plays this season for the Green Bay Packers, I don't think the Bears can win the NFC North. If he doesn't play, I think the Bears have a shot to win the division. But I look at the rest of the division. When I look at the Minnesota Vikings, I'm not sold on Kirk Cousins. Okay?
He's a good quarterback.
He's okay. I'm not sold on Kirk Cousins.
Quarterback.
I'm not sold on Jared Goff for the Detroit Lions. I'm not sold on Jared Goff.
Wild card.
I think Chicago slightly might be better than the Detroit Lions. Okay? Slightly. Maybe. What you think?
I think that if Aaron Rodgers is not playing the NFC North, that the Chicago Bears are the front runners for that division right there.
I think it's wide open if Aaron Rodgers isn't the quarterback.
Technically.
Wide open.
Yeah, technically though, but I would think Chicago will have the better chance though because they got the better defense.
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, let's say Aaron Rodgers doesn't show up, right? I don't even know. This is a day I would dread, okay? Like, this would be me being...
Oh, we going live for you.
This would be awful for me, okay? This would be me going into football, hell, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't show back up. But if he doesn't show back up, we got Jared Goff in Detroit. We got Jordan Love in Green Bay. we're gonna have Andy Dalton in Chicago, and we're gonna have Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. Out of those quarterbacks, who's the best quarterback? Out of those first quarterbacks,
Kirk Cousins.
by a lot.
Like out of that four, yes.
He's the most proven.
Yeah, the most proven. I think he's.
Well, I can't really
He's
say
better.
that. I know Andy had some time with your Bengals when he got your Bengals to the postseason.
2015 was his MVP year. Let's not forget that. Ash, I know you hear me. 2015 was his only best year, and you telling me he's better than Kirk Cousins?
I think you Bengal fans, y'all give a disservice to Andy Dalton. Like Andy Dalton was better.
Oh, don't
he
say
was better
that.
than what y'all give him credit
Don't
for.
say that,
He was
man.
better than what y'all give him credit for.
You watch
But
football?
I think I said it earlier. The last 2 years he hasn't been very good. But I think when he was with the Bengals, I think Andy Dalton, was a quarterback that you can win with. He wasn't elite.
All right, before we go on, let me ask you this: have you ever seen all the throws Andy Dalton threw to AJ Green?
I have.
Do you see how underthrown that man?
I've seen it.
Okay.
I'm not saying Andy Dalton's elite, but I think if Aaron
Serviceable
Rodgers doesn't show up, I think all those quarterbacks
Kirk Cousins-
in the NFC North are on a level playing field.
Kirk Cousins is going to be the best quarterback in that division.
I disagree. I think it's going to be a toss-up. I don't believe in Kirk
He's
Cousins.
better than Dalton. He's better than any Chicago situation right now. If Aaron Rodgers is not playing for Green Bay, man.
Let's transition to our Miles last segment of the day. Lamar Jackson said this offseason is, quote, straight go-to mode. And a big focus this season is improving